So, you want to get started in photography in 2025, but you're not exactly sure where to begin. Like me, you've probably spent hours upon hours online looking at camera reviews, lens reviews, accessories, and to be honest with you, it's easy to be overwhelmed. Some gear can cost thousands and thousands of pounds, and to be honest with you, it can sometimes feel like you need to take out a loan just to get started. Well, in this video, it's actually a part 2 of a mini-series that I'm doing on this channel. In part 1, I showed you exactly what I would buy if I was to start photography today with just a small budget of £1,000, a full beginner setup that included everything from cameras, lenses, accessories, the works. Now, in that video is all about keeping as costs as low as possible while still buying a capable and practical setup. But in this video, we're really gonna double the budget. Really stepping things up a notch. Now, I'm working with a total budget today of £2,000 instead of just £1,000. Still realistic if you want to start out, but it gives us a lot more flexibility, choosing far better performing gear that can take us a lot further, faster. And with this budget, we've still got to have a full kit. So not just buying one camera and we're done. We need a full photography kit that includes a mirrorless camera, a high quality zoom lens, a fast prime lens for portrait and low light photography, a fast and reliable memory card, a spare battery, and a proper camera bag to carry it all. Now, just like the first video, I've set out a few ground rules to make it as helpful and as fair as possible. Now, rule 1 is everything has to be brand new. No secondhand gear, no refurbished models. You should be able to buy everything I mentioned from your local camera shop or trusted online store with a full warranty and peace of mind. Rule 2 is prices are based on average retail costs. So no sales or no discounts. That way the video stays relevant all year round. So you don't have to wait for Black Friday or Amazon Prime Day to hunt down the deals to actually make this setup affordable. And rule 3 is all gear must be current and future-proof. So no old DSLRs or old discontinued cameras. This setup must be based around modern mirrorless gear that can grow with you over time. You don't want to waste your £2,000 on old technology. So with a £2,000 budget to spend and those rules in place, let's really dive into exactly what I would buy if I were to start my photography journey from scratch in 2025. And I'm gonna start right now. Right, let's kick this video off talking about the very heart of your camera bag, and that is the camera. Now, when buying your very first camera, you want to make sure that you're buying a camera that's incredibly versatile, that you can use for all types of photography. For that reason, I recommend buying a modern mirrorless camera. This will allow you to swap lenses, making it ideal for shooting in all types of environments. You also want to find a camera that's easy to use, compact and lightweight, has good image quality, and most importantly, has a good low light performance. Now, every camera brand offers great entry-level mirrorless cameras, but I think there are 2 major brands that stand out from the rest: Sony and Canon. Both brands have been making mirrorless cameras for a long time, and both brands have a great selection of budget-orientated mirrorless cameras to choose from in 2025. Now, actually, I have extensive use from cameras from both brands, and the brand that I think is best for beginners has to be Canon. I find they're a lot more user-friendly while still offering great image quality and value for money. But out of all of the cameras in Canon's lineup, which one do I recommend? Well, actually, I recommend this. This is the Canon EOS R8, and I think it's one of the most OP cameras Canon have ever made, especially for the price. One of the best sensors they've ever made. The same sensor that you can find in the more expensive Canon R6 Mark II. So what are the headline specs? Well, the R8 supports a 24.1 megapixel full frame sensor. This is Canon's cheapest full frame camera currently available that can shoot a whopping 40 frames a second in RAW with the electronic shutter. 10 years ago, that wasn't even possible on the most expensive Canon camera available. It's It's also got some of the best low light performance of any mirrorless camera currently available, with a maximum ISO of 102,400. That's the same in the R6 Mark II. Plus, it's small and lightweight, great if you're a travel photographer or content creator. If you're a content creator, this has got to be one of the best cameras regardless of budget. And most importantly, it is simple and easy to use. With a vari-angled touchscreen and a really simple unifying menu, it is a very easy camera to get grips with. But it still has a lot of functionality to it that can grow with your photography experience. Now, of course, there are a few things missing. For example, it has no IBIS, which stands for in-body image stabilization. So later on, we should look for a lens that actually has optical stabilization, as it's missing in the camera. And it's only got a single SD card slot, unlike more professional cameras that usually have 2 card slots that allow you to shoot redundant. Plus, it's only got Canon's smaller battery, that is the LP-E17, versus more expensive cameras that have larger batteries with more capacity. So you're probably going to go through battery life quicker versus other cameras. That's why we'll have to buy a spare battery later on in this video. But for £1,200, this camera is incredibly well spec'd. And you can see why I highly recommend it. So let's add this to the list and move on to our very first lens of the video. Right, so the first lens we need to look for is a zoom lens. And we want to find one that's as versatile as possible, something that's got a very useful focal length. We also need to find one that's got optical stabilization built in, as we haven't got it in our camera. And actually, I think there's one lens that comes to mind. This lens. This is the Canon RF 24 to 105mm f4.5 to f7.1 with IS built in. Now this is a very useful focal length. 24mm is wide angle all the way to 105mm, and as a wedding photographer, I would say around 90% of the photos that I take on a wedding day fall between 24 and 105mm. It's a very useful focal length. Now it does have quite a dark aperture, but actually when you compare it to the f4 version, the more premium version, this is so much smaller and so much lighter while still offering really good image quality. In fact, I would say this is one of the best Canon kit lenses that they've ever made. Now this is coming in at £429 brand new, which actually is pretty good price for a zoom lens like this. And because it has optical stabilization, it's also a really useful video lens. Now with the camera and lens combined, it comes at £1,628. So still a lot of budget to get another lens and some more accessories. Now, because of this lens's fairly dark aperture, we want to find a lens that's got a nice bright aperture, something that can let in a lot of light, great for portrait and creating a shallow depth of field. And realistically, there's only one lens that comes to mind, the real king of portrait lenses, and that is the 50mm f1.8. Now, everybody loves a 50mm. It is such a useful focal length. And every single camera brand sells a 50mm. The Canon RF 50mm f1.8 is one of Canon's best-selling RF lenses to date. And you can see why. It offers really good image quality. It's quite a sharp lens with not a lot of chromatic aberration, distortion, and vignetting. The flaring's really nice, plus it's really small and lightweight. Look how small this lens is. This is actually my very own lens. Some of the stuff I've borrowed from Canon to make this video, but this I actually personally own, and I still own it to this day. I bought it a few years ago. Granted you, I don't use it on every single shoot, but when I do use it, I really like the photos. But of course, the big benefit of owning this lens is going to be the price. Coming in at £185, this lens is incredibly well priced for the quality and easily fits within our budget, bringing up our total budget so far to £1,813. Still loads of money to play with to get some accessories. So the first accessory that's on our shopping list that we'll need to buy that fits within our budget is a memory card. And the memory cards that are compatible with the Canon R8 is an SD card. Now, because the R8 has got really impressive specs, we can't just buy a standard SD. We need to make sure that we're buying one that can keep up with the capabilities and speed of the camera, as this camera can shoot 4K up to 60 frames a second. So because of that, you want to buy a V60 UHS-2 SD or ideally a V90. And for that reason, I recommend buying these SD cards. These are the Sony Tough cards. Now they come in a variety of sizes, from 32 gig all the way up to half a terabyte. But the sizes I usually recommend and the sizes that I personally buy are 64 gigabytes. That comes in at a cost of around £60 per card. Now sure, you can buy cheaper cards, but I really like the Sony Tough cards because they're 17 times stronger than a standard plastic SD card. Plus, they're waterproof, which you won't believe how handy that is, especially if you're doing any hiking with your camera. Having a waterproof card is definitely helpful. Now they are definitely a little bit more expensive, but I do think they're worth the value. So because of that, let's add that to the list, bring up our total cost so far of £1,873. Moving on to the spare battery, and the battery that works with the Canon R8 is the Canon LP-E17 battery, this little battery here. Now, if you haven't watched part one of the things I always recommend when buying photography equipment, especially batteries and SD cards, is always buy a branded battery. You never know when a battery can go wrong. If you buy a branded one, it usually comes with a warranty. Now, the reason I say this, I used to own a lot of third-party batteries, and a lot of them have gone wrong on me in the past. I've had batteries and spare batteries, and all of the batteries have ended up going wrong at some point in my photography career. So now I pretty much only buy branded ones. So one of the things that I've learned the hard way is don't waste your money on cheap and inexpensive batteries, buy the proper batteries. Trust me, you'll thank me in the future. Now, an LP-E17 battery from Canon's website comes in around £45, bringing up our overall cost to £1,918. We've got around £80 left to buy ourselves a decent camera bag. Now, when buying a photography backpack, there's usually two things I look for. The first thing is to make sure you've got a bag that's a good enough size. A bag that's got plenty of spots for accessories as well as a tripod. You want to make sure you've got enough room for all your cameras, your lenses, your filters, your spare batteries and SD cards. As well as you want to look for a bag that ideally doesn't look like a camera bag. You don't want to advertise that you've got a bunch of expensive camera equipment in there. You know, we've just spent £2,000. The last thing you want to do is to advertise that you've got that amount of money in your backpack. So you don't want to buy one that's branded from Canon or Sony ideally. You want one that kind of looks like a more generic backpack, which is why I recommend this one. This is the Manfrotto Advanced Gear Backpack, and this is the Mark III version. It's the latest version they've just released, and I really like the design of it. You've got this really nice zipper design, as well as you've got loads of room inside. You've got plenty of spots and little zippers that you can place accessories. Plus, you've got a tripod spot on both the left and right hand side of this backpack. And I really like it for this reason. Plenty of bags just scream, I'm a camera bag, but I don't think this one does. And for around £89, I think it's fairly inexpensive for the quality of backpack. Right, let's have a look at our overall price of what we spent so far. Ah, not again. Okay, we've come in at £2,007, slightly over our budget. Well, there we have it. That is what I would buy if I had a budget of, well, £2,007. I went over it like I did last time, but I really think the gear and accessories that we got are definitely worth the extra £7. Now, of course, if you have a slightly smaller budget, go ahead and watch part one, where I talked about what camera gear I would buy if I only had £1,000. And of course, write down in the comments below if you had £2,000 to spend, or £2,007 in this case, what would you buy? What camera and lens combination would you buy? What accessories would you recommend? Make sure to write it down in the comments below. Thank you to all of my YouTube members that are currently supporting the channel. If you guys want to support the channel and get some awesome perks, including free Lightroom presets, make sure to go ahead to the link in the description. I've been James for Photo Fever, and I'll catch you guys next week.